Dan, again, thank you so much for joining me. Before the break, I was highlighting what many in the media even perceived as a hypocrisy among a lot of these climate change delegations, these countries who've participated with their, many, many private jets, massive motorcades and whatnot. I read a study that suggested that the richest 1%, I'm going to read it, richest 1% of the world's population were responsible for more than twice as much carbon pollution as the 3.1 billion people who made up the poorest half of humanity. So what I see, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe I am, and I'd love the challenge. We have a group of elites that gather in a room, or in many rooms in Glasgow, who are basically declaring and dictating the policy, the environmental policies of the world, which are going to have the biggest impact on the lowest, poorest nations of the world. How is this fair?
Well, it's not just unfair. The fact is it's contemptuous, and it demonstrates once again that these kind of policies are great for the rarefied groups that meet, swill back Perriers and eat canapes while discussing how they're going to chop up the world. But it's not by accident that the large number of developing nations have basically said this is a nice conference, thank you, but if you're not going to give us a couple $1 trillion, we're not in it. So don't ask us to do things that you've already been able to do. And if you guys are responsible for this stuff, clean up your own mess before you come to us. Now, we all recognize the planet is one. And I think for a lot of people, we have to also know that the technologies that we can share are very important. And that's, of course, where the Canadian position completely and utterly fails. Rather than saying Canada is a solution in terms of providing clean energy to the rest of the world, we demonize our own fossil fuels like natural gas. We actually bend over and placate and pay for and subsidize organizations to go and block pipelines in this country. To me, it seems that there's something seriously out of whack. And if one had to put a capital H on any country, apart from the fact the number of delegates that we sent, which I think was preposterously high, Canada really gets the in my view anyways, gets the prize for the biggest hypocrite there. And for that reason, a lot of countries scratching their heads saying, why would Canada do that to itself? A nation that has the ability, one that we respect, one that is known for its clean products. So overall, I think the elites have lost and failed here. But this is let's be blunt. This is what Carl Schwab and the WF wants. They want the rest of us to suffer, none of us to grow. And at the end of the day, I hate to say it, a lot of them do believe that the issue is population. It's not about a particular noble agenda.
Well, and the equality is really, really important to highlight. That's why I brought it up. Poorer nations, we know, can't develop without the use of fossil fuels. And they can't develop wealth like the Western world. And here we're almost crippling them and saying, okay, well, you're now going to get with this agenda, which is so far out of reach for them. So I appreciate that there was some pushback from these developing nations saying, hey, we're like, as you said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to buy into this agenda if you're not going to subsidize it because we can't afford it. We're poor.
Yeah. And the only thing we're using for us is the extraction of your minerals, so you can make your lithium, your graphite, your cobalt by destroying not only our environment but having absolutely nothing in the way of any decent labor mandates. I think for many countries, and I've visited some of those countries in my time in foreign affairs as a member of parliament, where people are still using dung to heat their homes or to eat. To me, it suggests just how out of proportion and just how out of touch our international elites who confer every year, every 5 years on these things really are with humanity. And for that reason, let COP26, as I said earlier, thankfully it'll be forgotten in a few weeks. Let's get on with the business of ensuring that everybody in this world has an advantage and that we live and continue to prosper in this country.
Okay, 20 seconds before we have to go. What do any of these things mean for Canadians, for the consumer? Are we expecting more increase in carbon taxation?
Well, your government has tripled down on carbon taxes. It's bringing the clean fuel standard. Now wants to just demonize only one industry, the natural gas and oil sector. It's not talking aviation in Montreal. It's not talking the manufacturing sector in Ontario. It's gone after only one sector. This is going to pinch the government's revenues, and it's also going to create tensions on a scale that I've not seen and certainly witnessed in the many years in which I followed politics. So congratulations, but our virtue signalers went to Glasgow and came back with even more reasons for the country to be less certain about its future, thanks to the shenanigans that went on there and the nonsense in order to pontificate as they did, both Trudeau and his 276 other members of his entourage.